This incident occurred last spring. Let me set the scene and give a bit of a backstory. I was driving from Minnesota to Iowa for a music festival and decided to leave Thursday night because 1. I generally prefer road tripping at night, less vehicles on the road, etc. And 2. I wanted to get to the festival grounds as early as possible to secure a good camping spot. All is going well. I'm about 2 hours away from Des Moines and I realize that I really gotta pee. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with driving along mostly rural interstate highways, rest areas can be a godsend when the gas stations, especially the ones still open after midnight, are few and far in between. So I see a sign for a rest area coming up in 2 miles. Perfect. I pull in and there's maybe 3 other cars in the lot. Things are generally quiet and on first glance nothing seems out of the ordinary or anything. However, I have just a feeling of unease as I pull into park, and I'm not one to ignore my intuitive reaction to things, but I really just have to freaking pee. Luckily, my little brother had just given me this badass little taser, because he knows I often like to go adventuring in various wooded areas and whatnot, usually at night, and he wants me to be safe. So I grab it quick, just in case, and run in to use the bathroom. Not 30 seconds after I close my stall door. I'm the only one in the building, by the way. I hear someone yelling either babe or a name, but it's unintelligible. Just the way they were hollering it made them sound unstable. At this point, my heart starts beating pretty fast, and I'm just hoping it leaves the general building, but no. I hear the main door to the women's restrooms get kicked open, of course. He comes to the only stall that is shut and starts kinda mumble yelling something that I can't make out, and I just said, in my sternest possible voice, "Dude, what the F?" He finally says something that I can make out. "I'm looking for my fucking girlfriend." So I said, "You don't know me, get the fuck out." Then he proceeds to ask me my name. Like, what the fuck? Dude is clearly not in his right mind. And at this point he starts shaking my freaking stall door. So I turned on the taser and repeated, "Get out," before hitting the little button that makes the taser do its thing. Luckily, as I hoped, just the sound of it was enough for him to quickly and repeatedly apologize as he backed his way out of the bathrooms. I just sat there for like 10 minutes as I regained control of my composure, and then quickly walked out to my vehicle, taser at the ready, and booked it out of there immediately. This is in a female point of view. I was 16 at the time of this event. My close friend Shayla and I were driving back home from visiting my distant family in West Michigan. Back then I resided in Portsmouth, Virginia. It was 11 p.m. out and we were the only drivers on the road. Mind you, I have never taken this way before, as I wanted to skip the toll roads this time. Shayla and I were so busy in conversation that we hadn't noticed coming up on an abandoned town somewhere in Pennsylvania. As we finally caught hold of our surroundings, I had a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. My friend caught on and she asked me if I was alright. "Yeah, I'm okay. This town is pretty creepy though," I reply. I wasn't lying. There were such things as old houses with boarded up windows and closed down stores. Even cars and trucks were left abandoned. It honestly looked like a scene out of a horror movie. My friend and I stayed silent. You could feel the drastic change in the air. It felt sinister. A couple of minutes of silence pass and my car starts to shake. I realize that we're running out of gas. I totally forgot to stop miles back in a different town. "Fuck," I yell, pulling over in front of yet another abandoned house. "What a great place to break down at," she laughs nervously. I nod, agreeing with her sarcastic comment. I take my phone out to call roadside assistance that my parents programmed into my phone. I didn't have cell reception, so I got out of the car and Shayla followed. Now this is where things start to get really weird and scary. I'm completely focused on getting reception that I didn't realize that Shayla was staring completely ahead and looking terrified. She whispers my name before pulling on my shirt. She points ahead. There's a man standing about 10 feet from us. I follow her gaze and she was right. There was a man about 6'2" standing there, in front of my car headlights. How can anyone be here? This place is a dead town. I don't breathe or speak. My heart's in my stomach, but finally Shayla speaks up. "Do you need something?" she calls out. Right then he tilts his head and cracks a really weird smile at us. At this point I'm so terrified I can't even move. He just stares at us, smiling. She tells him that her dad's a cop, and that was a big mistake on our part. His expression turns to anger, and he starts to move towards us, very fast. Our adrenaline kicks in and we run into my car and lock the doors. We look up and the man's gone. I was breathing so heavily it was distracting me from the sound under the car. He was underneath my car. Shayla is screaming, tears flowing down her cheeks. I was trying to stay calm, praying to God for my phone to get service. Finally, I get 2 bars. I call the cops and alert them about what's happening. They respond with they'd be there in 20 minutes. By the time the phone call ends, the sound stopped. I was still on high alert, scared out of my mind. I'm hugged up against Shayla, us both crying. Her face goes emotionless as she looks behind me at the back window. My heart tells me not to look, but I can't help it. I look, I wish I hadn't. That man and 4 others. 2 other men and 2 other women. My heart dropped yet again. They all smile. I realize they had bats and something else in their hands. But I start to hear police sirens and sigh in relief. Shayla and I look to the front and see the cop car pulling up. I've never been so happy to see a police officer. By the time he walked to my car, the people had disappeared. I was so shaken up I couldn't even explain to the cops what had happened. Shayla did that for me. They offered to get gas, but instead I begged them to bring us to a hotel in a very populated area and call my parents to get us. To this day, the cops never found those people or where they could have possibly came from. My guess was that they reside in one of the abandoned buildings. I hope they block this town off someday. I never ever took the back ways again. I saw a post a few minutes ago with a picture of what appeared to be cult activity. Looking back at that picture stirred a not so distant memory. For context, I visit my mom every few months, and she lives a few states away from me. I was driving back from visiting my mom and was less than an hour or 2 from the Oklahoma-Texas state line. As I was driving, I entered a small town that I have no knowledge of. The only thing I remember clearly about it was there were a few medicinal marijuana dispensaries and it had a lot of old buildings, almost all of them with large old fences and gates. I can't find this on a map. If y'all have any ideas, please let me know. Now on to the creepy encounter. I drove into town already feeling creeped out. The residents would shuffle about and stare. There were very few new buildings, but that wasn't the creepy part. On almost every sidewalk, corner, and road there were dead dogs, all wearing a leash and a collar. No blood, no slashes, bites, or gunshot wounds. I stopped at the one traffic light in the town and took in the greater picture. The people, as I just said, shuffled and just seemed wrong. Then the horror hit me. There were like 20 plus dead dogs. There was no logical reason or conclusion for this to happen. 1 or maybe 2 would make sense, but it was 20 plus. Almost every lawn, there was a dead dog. Not just one breed in particular. It varied from miniature poodles up to Rottweilers and even Labradors. I noticed no one seemed to care. It was not just one, there was just no way of ignoring it. But again, they all had leashes and collars, and I can't emphasize this enough. They were just actually everywhere. They were on street corners, yards, middle of the road, parking lots. I drove through the town with no issues. Also, I attempted to find the town before writing this down. I still have no luck finding it. Next time I go up to see my mom, I'll attempt to track this town down and possibly give y'all an update. My theory is it's either a cult or a major meth or drug epidemic in that town. If you have any information or ideas of where and what happened, please share it.